The night was cold, and the wind moved like a living thing across the dark forest. Trees bent as if they were trying to warn anyone who dared to walk through them. But one traveler did not stop. One human walked alone under the stormy sky, his cloak soaked with rain, his boots covered with mud, and his face hidden in the shadow of his hood. He looked tired, but he walked with the slow and heavy steps of someone who had no other place to go. Ahead of him, faint light appeared, a warm glow, a sign of life in the endless night. The human lifted his head. It was a tavern, but not an ordinary one. This tavern stood in the middle of the forest, far away from any road or village. No one should have been there. No smoke came from the chimney. No laughter came from inside. Only a soft orange glow flickered behind dusty windows. The tavern looked old, almost forgotten, as if it had been waiting for someone for a very long time. The human stopped in front of the door. Water dripped from his coat. His breath showed cold white clouds in the air. He placed his hand on the wooden door, and the wind suddenly stopped. The forest held its breath. Even the rain softened. It was as if the world itself waited to see what would happen next. Inside, the tavern was full of adventurers, elves, dwarves, beastfolk, and old warriors with many scars. They all sat around wooden tables, eating and talking in low voices. A fire burned quietly in the hearth. Soft music from a lute echoed in the background. This place was known as the Adventurers' Tavern. But there was one strange rule. No human had walked inside for almost 100 years, not because they were banned, but because humans were believed to be gone, lost, extinct. So when the door handle moved, every voice in the tavern stopped. The lute player froze. The dwarf drinking ale stopped mid-gulp. Even the fire in the hearth seemed to quiet down. The door creaked open. The human stepped inside. Everyone stared. Every pair of eyes locked onto him, the stranger with wet clothes, carrying a small travel bag and a look of quiet determination. His face was still hidden under the hood, but his presence felt heavy, like a story long forgotten. A tall elf near the door narrowed his eyes. "Is that a human?" The entire tavern went silent. The human looked up. His eyes were tired but strong, holding stories that no one there could understand. He did not speak. He simply walked toward an empty corner table. The floorboards made soft sounds under his steps, but strangely, no other sound dared to join. The tavern felt alive in a new way. The candles burned brighter. The fire crackled suddenly, as if welcoming him or warning him. A beastfolk warrior leaned toward his friend. "This is wrong," he whispered. "Humans don't exist anymore." But the human sat down quietly, placing his small bag on the table. When he opened it, a soft glow spilled out light blue, gentle, almost magical. The glow touched the wooden table, and strange runes appeared on the surface, glowing for a moment before fading again. The tavern reacted. Chairs creaked. The ceiling groaned. A single lantern above him flickered violently and then stabilized, shining brightly only above him. Everyone was uneasy now. A dwarf slammed his mug on the table. "Who are you?" he demanded. "And what business do you have in a place like this?" The human slowly raised his head. His hood fell back, revealing a young but worn face, filled with exhaustion, fear, and something else. Something dangerous. "I am looking for safety," he said softly. His voice was calm, but the words carried weight. Safety from what? Safety from whom? Before anyone could ask, a cold wind blew through the tavern, though every window was shut tight. The candles went out for a second and then relit themselves. An old elf at the back of the tavern stood up slowly. His voice shook. "You brought something with you," he whispered. "Something that has crossed realms." The human did not deny it. He lowered his eyes. "Something followed me here," he said quietly. "And it is getting closer." A chill moved across the room. Adventurers exchanged troubled looks, No one spoke. Outside, the forest groaned as something very large moved between the trees, and the tavern, once a place of warmth and safety suddenly felt like the center of danger. The human tightened his cloak and whispered only one final line. It found my world and destroyed it. Now it is coming for yours. The tavern fell into deep silence, and the story truly began. The tavern had fallen into complete silence. Every adventurer kept staring at the human like he was a ghost that walked out of an old legend. No one moved. No one breathed loudly. Even the fire in the hearth seemed to shrink, as if afraid of the truth he carried. The human leaned back on his chair, tired, but never lowering his guard. His eyes scanned the room slowly, reading the faces of elves, dwarves, beastfolk, and wanderers, who watched him with suspicion and growing fear. A hooded elf near the wall finally broke the silence. His voice was cold and sharp. "Humans vanished long ago," he said. "No human kingdom stands. No human trails remain. How are you alive?" His question was not just curiosity. It was accusation. The human did not answer. His fingers traced the table's surface where the glowing runes had appeared earlier. He watched them fade again into plain wood. A dwarf with a heavy axe stood up next. His thick beard twitched with anger. "Speak, stranger. What chased you here? What danger follows you?" The human looked at him slowly. "Something that does not stop," he said. "Something that does not sleep. Something that wants everything gone." The dwarf frowned. "What is it?" The human looked away. "I don't know its name." Those words made the room colder. Outside, the wind howled again, but it was not like ordinary wind. It had weight. It had direction. It had a purpose. The windows rattled. The lanterns flickered. Everyone felt it. Something outside was searching. At the far end of the tavern, the old elf known as Arendelle the Seer slowly walked forward. His hands shook as he approached the human. His eyes were wide with disbelief. "I have seen this in my dreams," he whispered. "A human walking through the storm, carrying a light that does not belong to this world." The human did not show emotion. "Dreams do not save people," he said quietly. Arendelle nodded. "But they warn us." A beastfolk warrior slammed his hand on the table. "Enough riddles," he growled. "If this human brings danger, throw him out." Many nodded. Fear made them bold. Fear made them stupid. The human glanced toward the door. "If I go outside," he said softly, "you will all be dead before the door closes." A deep silence returned. Something heavy walked past the tavern wall. Something giant. Something that dragged its claws through the dirt. The adventurers glanced at each other, trying to stay calm. A young elven girl near the hearth whispered to her mother, "Mama, is it a monster?" Her mother covered her mouth gently. "Don't speak, child." The tavern creaked. The roof groaned. Dust fell from the ceiling. Whatever circled them was strong enough to crush the building in moments. And yet, it did not attack. It was searching. The human took a slow breath. "This tavern hides ancient magic," he said. "That is why I came here. That is why it cannot see me yet." Arendelle's eyes widened. "You know this place?" The human nodded. "Yes, I have studied every tavern, every ruin, every shrine from my world, and many others. This one is special. It stands between realms." A dwarf stepped back. "Between realms?" "Yes," the human said. "It was built to hide those who need protection. It can only be found by someone carrying a destiny they did not choose." Everyone stared at him with wide eyes. "So the tavern chose you?" Someone whispered. The human didn't answer, which was answer enough. A beastfolk archer drew his bow. "If this thing outside finds you, will it destroy us too?" "Yes," the human said softly, "but it will not stop with this tavern. It will not stop with this forest. It will not stop with your kingdoms. It will end everything. He looked around the room slowly. It destroyed my world, he said. And it followed me by scent, by memory, by hunger. A cold breath passed through the tavern. The lanterns dimmed. Arendel the seer placed a shaking hand on the table. We must know, he whispered. What did you bring with you? What power? What object? What light did you show us? The human slowly opened his small travel bag. Inside was the soft blue glow from earlier, but now the light grew stronger, pulsing like a heartbeat. Everyone stepped closer, drawn and afraid. It is a piece of the place I come from, the human said. The last piece that survived. He lifted it, a small crystal. But the moment it appeared, the tavern walls shook violently. The creature outside roared, as if calling its name. The adventurers stumbled back in fear. The human closed his hand around the crystal. If it sees this, he said quietly, we all die. And then the tavern lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Darkness filled the entire tavern. Not even the fire in the hearth produced light. It felt as if the world had been swallowed by a deep, heavy shadow. Adventurers reached for weapons. Chairs scraped. Someone whispered a prayer. No one dared to move too quickly. Only the human's faint, steady breathing could be heard. Then, slowly, one lantern lit itself above him, soft blue light, the same color as the crystal he held. The light spread across the table, revealing his calm face and the shocked expressions around him. The old elf Arendel stepped closer. This darkness, it responds to your presence, he whispered. It follows the crystal. The human nodded. It is searching. It cannot enter this tavern fully, not yet, but it can still reach us through shadows. A dwarf warrior raised his axe, then destroy the crystal. The human looked directly at him. If I destroy it, the creature will tear through these walls in seconds. The dwarf lowered his weapon with a frustrated growl. Before anyone else could argue, the human slowly set the crystal on the table and reached back into his bag. He pulled out a rolled, weathered piece of parchment tied with frayed thread. He placed it on the table. The tavern went dead silent. A beastfolk scout narrowed his eyes. What is that? The human spoke softly. The map of my world, before it fell. He unrolled it. Everyone around gasped, taking a step back. The map glowed. Faint blue, just like the crystal. But that was not what shocked them. The map showed this realm, their forests, mountains, rivers, kingdoms. Everything they knew. But it also showed a large black area, a circular void covering a huge landmass, labeled only with a single symbol, an ancient rune no one recognized. A rune that pulsed like a heartbeat. Arendel placed a trembling hand on the table. This land, this empty, dark land. It was erased from all records thousands of years ago. No one knows what existed there. The human nodded. It existed, and it died. A young dwarf leaned forward. You mean something destroyed it? The human pointed to the rune. This is where it began. A crack in the world. A door that was never meant to open. The tavern shuddered as a low growl echoed outside. Everyone froze. The human continued. My people found this place first. We studied it. We sent explorers. Some never returned. Those who did came back changed, afraid, broken. And then, one day, the darkness poured out. It spread like fire. It consumed everything. Arendel's voice cracked. And you ran here? The human shook his head. No, I was sent here. I was chosen to shut the door from the other side. The tavern exploded in whispered panic. Chosen by who? A beastfolk archer demanded. The human unrolled the map further. Now glowing runes appeared around the edges of the parchment warnings. Instructions, prophecies. Words from a forgotten language. But one phrase repeated over and over. The tavern between worlds. Arendel gasped. This tavern, it is older than any kingdom. Older than elves, older than dwarves. It is a guardian. Yes, the human said. A bridge between realms. A place meant to protect the last hope when all else is lost. He pointed to the center of the map. A glowing dot showed the exact location of the tavern. Only someone carrying the final key can find this place. A key? Someone asked. The human tapped the crystal. The tavern wall shook. Harder than before. Dust fell from the ceiling. Something scraped its claws along the wooden planks outside. An adventurer near the door stepped back with fear. It is getting angrier, the human nodded. It knows the key is here. Arundel studied the map. But the darkness cannot pass into this tavern, not fully. Not yet, the human said. What do you mean not yet? The human pointed at the map again, at the glowing rune. The longer the crystal is here, the more the creature learns. Soon, it will know how to break through. Everyone felt the temperature drop. A beastfolk warrior spoke with a trembling voice. Then what do we do? Fight it? Run? Hide? The human rolled up the map slowly. We do what my world failed to do. He stood. We closed the door. The tavern fell into silence again. No one knew what he meant. No one understood how. But they felt something. The tavern itself seemed to breathe out, as if relieved that someone finally spoke those words. Then bang. The entire building shook. Drinks spilled. Plates fell. A claw ripped through the outer wall, leaving a long deep mark. The creature was testing the barrier. The human grabbed the map, the crystal, and his cloak. It found us, he said. We don't have much time. The tavern lights flickered violently. Outside, something massive roared. The roar outside did not sound like any beast known to the forest. It was deep, layered, and unnatural, like several voices crying out. At once, every window shook. The old wooden walls groaned in fear. Even the candles trembled, as if the flames themselves wanted to hide. The adventurers backed closer to the center of the tavern. No one wanted to be near the walls. No one wanted to be close to the thing outside. Arundel the seer gripped his staff tightly. It is not of this world, he whispered. I have seen monsters, shadows, curses, but this thing is wrong. The human did not look surprised. He tightened the straps on his bag and checked his blade. It does not belong anywhere, he said quietly. It is what happens when a door opens that should always stay shut. Another roar shook the tavern, louder than before. Something large dragged itself across the roof. Dust rained from the ceiling. The sound of claws scraping on stone made everyone flinch. A dwarf whispered, "It is trying to find a weak spot." The human nodded. "It is learning. It is always learning." A beastfolk warrior stepped forward. "We cannot let it find us. We should attack it before it breaks in." The human shook his head. "If you step outside, you will not last long. It does not attack like a normal beast. It does not bleed. It does not fear. It adapts." As if hearing his words, the creature stopped moving. Silence. A silence too still, too heavy, too aware. Then a slow tapping began on the wall. A claw. Tap, tap, as if it were listening. Counting, searching. The entire tavern froze. The human's voice became cold. "It knows I am in here. It is trying to understand the boundaries of this place." Arundel swallowed hard. The tavern's magic is old. It can hide a heart. It can hide a soul. But if the creature fully understands the walls, it will break through. The tapping grew louder. Tap, 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 then scratching. Long, hungry scratches. The elf at the bar covered his ears. "Make it stop, make it stop." The human stepped toward the door slowly. He placed his hand near the wood, not touching it, but close. The creature immediately slammed itself against the wall. A heavy impact cracked the inner beams. Everyone jumped back. The human didn't move. It can sense me, he whispered. But it cannot see me, not fully. The tavern blocks its sight, but not its hunger. Arundel's eyes widened. Then why come here? If it follows the crystal, you should have destroyed it. No, the human said firmly. The crystal is the only map to the door between realms. Without it, there is no way to close the crack. Without it, your world dies next. Silence again. A soft rumble moved across the roof. The creature crawled. Slowly, testing every inch, searching for a weakness. Every step shook the tavern slightly. The human turned to the adventurers. I need your help. I cannot face this alone. I was never meant to. A dwarf laughed nervously. You want us to fight that thing? No, the human said. I want you to help me get to the door. If I reach it, I can shut it forever. But the path, it will not be easy. And the creature will follow. The beastfolk warrior stepped closer. What happens if you fail? The human looked around the room. His eyes were tired, yes, but filled with something else, resolve. Then your children will scream in the same darkness that swallowed mine. A chill moved through every soul in the tavern. Before anyone could speak again, something slammed against the back wall. This time it was stronger. Wood cracked. Planks bent inward. A small gap opened, and a black swirling tendril slipped through thin. Shadowy, alive. The elf near the wall screamed. The tendril reached toward the nearest person, a dwarf moving. Fast like smoke and lightning combined. But the human reacted quicker. He slammed his crystal against the table. A sharp ring echoed through the tavern. Blue light burst from the stone like a shockwave. The tendril touched the light and shrieked as it burned away, smoke rising. The creature outside roared, this time not in hunger, but in pain. The dwarf stumbled back, shaking. It almost touched me. Arundel leaned heavily on his staff. The barrier is weakening, the human nodded. We do not have hours, we have minutes. He pointed to the map, rolled tight in his hand. I know the path. The creature knows it too. If we leave now, we still have a chance. The tavern shook again, harder. Planks snapped. A window shattered. The creature was losing patience, and the human looked at the frightened adventurers, his voice low and urgent. If you want to live, follow me. The tavern shook again so violently that mugs fell off tables and shattered across the wooden floor. Adventurers grabbed their weapons, unsure if they were preparing to fight or simply trying not to tremble. Outside, the creature's roar echoed through the forest, sharp and angry, as if the human's last move had wounded it in a way it had never felt before. The human closed his eyes for a moment, breathing slowly, trying to steady something inside him. When he opened them again, they looked different, tired, yes, but also filled with old pain, deep fear, and something heavier than both. He finally spoke. You deserve to know the truth. Everyone leaned closer. Even the tavern seemed to quiet itself, like a living guardian waiting to hear a confession that had been buried too long. My world was not peaceful, the human began. We were explorers, builders, curious people. And that curiosity, he paused. It opened a door that should never have been touched. Arundel frowned. The door to the crack in the world? The human nodded. Yes, we found ancient symbols carved in deep caverns, far below the sea. They spoke about a realm outside of life and death, a place of pure hunger. We believed we could study it, control it, learn from it. A dwarf muttered, humans and their madness. The human didn't react. We sent machines. Then we sent soldiers. Then we sent a small team of volunteers. I was one of them. A beastfolk warrior stepped forward. You went there? To the door? Yes, the human answered. And we found nothing, no land, no sky. Only shadows that watched us from every direction. His hands trembled slightly. We returned. We told our leaders to destroy the project. They refused. They saw power where we saw danger. The tavern lights flickered, and then it came out. A chill spread through the room. Even those with the strongest hearts felt fear crawl across their skin. It began as a thin mist, the human continued. A shadow that spread without shape. It grew fast. It filled the air. It swallowed the first city in minutes. People didn't die. They vanished. As if erased from existence. Arundel swallowed hard. Your leaders did nothing? They fired weapons, magic, light, everything. It only made the creature stronger. It learned. It adapted. Every attack we made, it made it grow. The tavern groaned as the creature outside slammed into the side wall again. Cracks formed in the beams. The human continued. Voice steady even as the ground shook beneath him. My world tried to escape. The strongest among us tried to fight. The wisest tried to close the door. Nothing worked. A dwarf whispered, "So, how did you survive?" The human lowered his head. "I didn't survive," he said. "I was sent." Everyone stared. He took the crystal from his bag again, holding it in his shaking hand. The blue glow flickered softly. This is the last memory of my world, the last thing untouched, the last piece of light. He swallowed. My people used their final strength to bind it to a spell that chose me, a spell that opened a path into your realm. Arendel's voice trembled. They sacrificed themselves. Yes, the human whispered. I am the last of them. I carry their final wish. The tavern fell silent as the truth settled like a heavy blanket over every soul. What wish? A beastfolk archer asked slowly. The human closed his eyes. To close the door forever. To make sure no other world falls like ours did. Outside, the creature roared again louder than before. The roof shook. The windows cracked. Shadows crawled along the edges of the wall. The creature was getting stronger, smarter, angrier. And if I fail, the human said softly, your world will be next. Arundel looked at him with sorrow. Then why come here? Why not run? Why not hide? The human opened his eyes. They glowed slightly with the same blue light as the crystal. Because I can feel the doors pull, he said. I can sense. It is not far from here. And I am the only one who can stand before it. A dwarf shook his head. You're just a man. The human smiled sadly. I used to be. He lifted the crystal. Light spread across his arm like veins of pure energy. The tavern gasped. I have carried this power since the day my world died, he said. It burns me. It changes me. It keeps me alive while everything else falls. He looked at the adventurers. Each one frightened yet unable to look away. You asked who I am, he said softly. I am the last human. And I am here so your world does not become the next lost realm. Before anyone could respond, a massive claw tore through the wall. Splinters flew everywhere. The creature's shadowy limb reached for the human, moving. With terrible speed. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He stepped forward, crystal glowing bright, and whispered, Not yet. A blast of blue light erupted from his hand and struck the creature's claw, burning it away in a flash of crackling energy. The creature screamed, and the tavern shook as if the world itself felt the pain. The burned claw fell back through the shattered wall, smoking as it vanished into the darkness outside. The creature answered with a roar that shook the entire tavern, a roar filled with pain, hate, and a promise of destruction. The floorboards trembled. Every table rattled. The lanterns swayed wildly. The adventurers stumbled back. By the gods, a dwarf whispered, I have never heard a beast scream like that. That is because it is not a beast, the human said calmly, lowering the glowing crystal. It feels nothing except hunger. Until now, this is the first time it has been hurt. A cold silence followed, hope and terror mixed together, but the creature did not give them time to breathe. The roof above them cracked. Dust rained down. A shadow moved along the beams, thick and heavy, like smoke with weight. The shadow pressed downward, testing the wood. The beastfolk warrior grabbed his spear. It is coming from above. Elves drew their bows. Dwarves lifted shields. Everyone backed toward the center of the tavern. The human stepped forward. Blue. Light flowed across his arm again, climbing from his fingers to his shoulder like threads of living fire. He clenched his fist. Suddenly, the roof split open. A giant black mass with 6 burning eyes stared down at them. Eyes that were not really eyes, but holes of darkness, windows into the empty realm where the creature was born. The thing lunged, arrows flew, spears stabbed. Magic sparks flashed from trembling hands. Nothing stopped it. The creature's shadowy body slid through the opening like liquid darkness. Its massive head pushed into the tavern, forcing the beams apart. Tables overturned. The hearth fire dimmed as if suffocating. Adventurers screamed and scattered. The creature struck the ground with one of its limbs, sending a shockwave across the tavern. A dwarf flew backward, hitting the wall. A beastfolk warrior rolled across the floor. The creature moved fast, too fast. It aimed straight for the human. But the human stood still, crystal raised. The creature's claws reached for him, and the human unleashed a blast of blue light so bright that every window shattered. Blast hit the creature's head. It screamed again, pulling back violently. Smoke rose from the wound. The tavern shook, but the monster retreated slightly, stunned. Arundel gasped, "Your magic!" "It is not normal human magic. It is not magic," the human said. "It is what is left of my world." The creature's 6 eyes focused on him again. The shadow around it thickened, swirling like a storm. It opened a mouth filled with nothing, no teeth, no tongue, only a swirling void. "Move!" The human shouted. He pushed Arundel and 2 elves aside, just as the creature fired a beam of darkness that sliced through the tavern floor like a blade. The wood melted into black dust. Panic spread through the room. The human dashed to the fallen dwarf, dragging him out of the creature's reach. His movements were too fast, almost superhuman. "You are changing," Arundel whispered, seeing the blue energy crawling across the human's arm, even when he wasn't calling it. "The power. It is becoming part of you." The human didn't answer. He didn't have time. The creature slammed its limb through the bar, shattering mugs and kegs. Ale spilled like a river. The liquid touched the creature's body and instantly turned black. "Everyone get behind me!" The human yelled. The adventurers gathered near him, some bleeding, some shaking, but all refusing to run. The human closed his eyes for a moment. Then he did something none of them expected. He stepped closer to the creature. Arundel shouted, "Ah! You mad! It will swallow you whole!" The human ignored him. "Come," he whispered to the creature. "You want me, don't you?" "Not them." The creature stilled. The 6 burning eyes locked onto him. The human raised the crystal high. The blue light pulsed like a heartbeat, then exploded outward in a ring of light, forming a glowing shield around the adventurers. The ring expanded, pushing against the creature's shadows. The creature roared, but the shield held, for now. But the human staggered, dropping to one knee, his breathing heavy. Arundel rushed to him. "You cannot hold this forever." "I don't need forever," the human gasped. "I just need long enough." "Long enough for what?" a beastfolk warrior asked. The human pointed at the map, which lay on the ground glowing faintly. "For you to take the map," he said, "and lead the others to the door." Everyone stared. "You?" Arundel asked. "What will you do?" The human stood again, crystal blazing brighter than ever. "I will hold the creature here," he said. "I will buy you time." The creature slammed into the shield again, harder, faster. Angrier. The human didn't fall, but his voice trembled as he spoke his final words of this part. "I cannot defeat it, but I can stop it long enough for you to finish what my world couldn't." The shield cracked. The creature roared, and the human braced for the final stand. The shield around the adventurers flickered like a candle fighting strong wind. Cracks spread across the blue light, thin lines at first, then wider and deeper. Every time the creature slammed against it, the cracks grew. The air shook from the force. The tavern's walls bent inward. Dust fell like snow. The human stood in front of the shield, holding the glowing crystal with both hands. His knees trembled. Sweat rolled down his face. The blue veins of light crawling across his arms had spread to his neck and chest, pulsing like a second heartbeat. Arendelle the seer grabbed his shoulder. "You cannot hold this any longer. You will break." The human shook his head. "No," he whispered. "I was breaking long before this, but now I finally have something left worth breaking for." The creature outside roared again this time, a roar filled with rage, fear, and desperation. It rammed its massive body against the shield. Splinters of darkness shattered off its form, hitting the tavern walls like knives. The human pushed back with all his strength. The crystal blazed. The shield brightened, but every second cost him. His hands shook harder. His vision blurred. His breath grew shallow. The crystal flickered dangerously. The beastfolk warrior shouted, "We cannot leave you. We fight together." "No." The human yelled, turning his head sharply. "If you stay, everyone dies. It follows me, not you. I am its target, its obsession. You must reach the door." Arendelle understood first. He grabbed the map from the floor. "The door is not far. If we run now, we can reach it before the creature breaks free." The elves readied their bows. The dwarves lifted their shields. The beastfolk warriors tightened their grips on their weapons. Everyone stood in a circle behind the human. But no. One moved, because no one wanted to leave him. The creature struck the shield again. A huge crack burst across the blue light. The human fell to one knee, gasping. "Go," he whispered. "Please, go." Arendelle's voice shook. "Human, what is your name?" The human lifted his head slowly, his lips curling into a tired smile. "My name no longer matters," he said. "But my purpose does." A final slam hit the shield. The entire tavern shook violently. A huge section of the ceiling collapsed. Shadows spilled into the room like smoke. The shield dimmed. "Go!" The human roared, voice echoing like thunder. This time they listened. Arendelle raised his staff. "Move, now!" The adventurers ran to the side door, the only part of the tavern the creature had not reached yet. They kicked it open and rushed into the cold forest night. The human stayed. He stood alone, facing the monster that had ended his world. The creature smashed the shield one last time. The barrier shattered. Blue shards exploded outward like broken glass. The human was thrown across the floor, hitting a wooden beam hard. He coughed, blood on his lips. But he stood again, wobbling but refusing to fall. The creature entered the tavern fully now. A giant mass of swirling darkness, 6 burning eyes, a mouth of endless void. It filled the room like living smoke. Bending the wooden beams with its weight, the human raised the crystal one last time. "You destroyed my world," he whispered. "But you will not destroy this one." The creature lunged. The human brought the crystal to his chest and pressed it against his heart. Blue light exploded. The entire tavern was swallowed in blinding brilliance. The creature screamed, a howl so loud and broken it shook the sky. Its shadows burned away, layer by layer, melting under the light like frost under fire. But the human felt his strength slipping. The crystal's power drained everything from him, his energy, his breath, his life. He fell to one knee. Not enough. Not enough to kill it, but enough to stop it. For now. Outside, the adventurers saw the flash of blue from deep in the forest. Arendelle looked back with tears in his eyes. "He is buying us time," he whispered. "He is giving us his last breath. We must honor it, a dwarf said. We must finish what he started. The group ran through the woods, carrying the map and the crystal's fading echo. The path glowed faintly under their feet. The door awaited Dot, and behind them, the human stood in the collapsing tavern, holding the creature back with the last light of a dead world. His final words were a whisper carried by the wind. Let this world live, even if I do not. The light burst one last time. The forest shook, and then silence. A new journey began for the adventurers, a journey to close the door. A journey born from one human's final stand, a journey that would decide the fate of all realms.